What is going on, everybody? Jacob Doodle here and Zach Clarke, and we are going to be doing a mock draft. We've been waiting for this. Will Scouching with the simulator. He's the one who actually made this. Show him some love on YouTube, all his socials. And Zach, what's up, man? You ready for some mock draft or what?
Absolutely. We've been talking about the draft for so long leading up to it. I can't bear to talk anymore. Let's do some simulating and see what the Canucks might be coming away with.
Yeah, this is going to be good. We have a randomization factor of around 40%, so it's going to be a little bit wild, but not too crazy. And we're going to be going over the Vancouver Canucks' first 4 picks. And, of course, we're going to be doing the first 2 rounds here for the Vancouver Canucks picks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And also, in the next video we're going to be doing is an actual mock draft of 10 to 15 teams in order with every single pick. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. So let's get into it. And the lottery results are in. The Calgary Flames are picking number 1. The Vancouver Canucks are holding on here to a top 2 pick, which is very important. I'm pretty sure Zach is going to agree with me here. And Chicago is down to the 3rd pick. So let's start the draft right off the bat. It looks like the Calgary Flames went with Gavin McKenna, which is the obvious choice there. I think he just has the highest ceiling. So for the Vancouver, and not maybe obvious for not all people, but I just feel like personally, I don't know if you agree, Zach, but I feel like he has the highest ceiling, Gavin McKenna. So
he's definitely got the highest ceiling. There are some teams that I think would be better off taking Stenberg, i.e. teams that dropped that are going to be trying to be competitive next year. I think perfect example of that would be Florida Panthers. If they won the lottery, I'm going Stenberg 10 out of 10 times. But for someone like the Flames or the Canucks, I much prefer McKenna. That being said, my vote for this pick right here, Doodle, you got to go Iver Stenberg.
Just the way he plays the game, chases pucks down. He has a really good hands, decent two-way ability as well. More NHL ready, I would say, the way he plays than Gavin. Maybe Gavin might take a little bit longer, but has that little higher ceiling. But yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. But let's go with Iver Stenberg here. And let's keep going on with the draft. And it looks like Chase Reed goes number 3. Keaton Verhoff goes number 4. Albert Smith goes number 5. Carson Karls, number 6 to the Florida Panthers.
4 D-men off the board in a row.
Right away. Lawrence, pretty high, but centers usually go high pretty early. Ethan Belchez goes number 8. Viggo Bjork, number 9. Malhotra down at 10. Daxon Rudolph, which I'm going to be talking a lot about. This guy's just climbing up the ranks right now. Novotny going number 12. Zach, is there anybody that's kind of standing out here that you thought, oh, maybe he should go a little higher or maybe a little bit lower?
There's a couple that I've noticed have jumped a little bit. One that I think certainly jumped is Suvanto. He, at least for me, strikes me as kind of an end of the first round guy. First half of the first round, pretty high. On top of that, Ethan Belkets as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Ethan Belkets. He should go in the first half of the first round. But I expected to see him kind of in the early teens, not as a top 10 pick, certainly. And Viggo Bjork making it inside the top 10 as it should be. But honestly, when it comes time to draft day, would not shock me if Viggo Bjork ends up just outside the top 5.
Yeah, and Lawrence at number 7 does surprise me. Just mostly because I like Lawrence, but you guys know centers usually go pretty early, especially in drafts. Right-handed centers and right-handed defensemen usually go early, but centers in general go early. That's why it's going to be interesting to see where Viggo goes, because he is a center, but he's also on the smaller side. Lawrence didn't have the best NCAA, but he has a ton
and that's
of potential.
What it is.
Yeah, and
that's
with
exactly
Malhotra, and Malhotra at number 10 there, some people even have Vancouver potentially really liking him if they go in that 3rd slot, and he's dropping down there to, I believe, Nashville Predators here, it looks like. So that would be a very interesting pick there. So some interesting names there, but let's go to the Vancouver Canucks, and now let's have some fun here. Because there's just a lot of really good names. I'm going to let you kick this off. Who do you really like in this spot right here?
Well, it's funny because you and I have had conversations before, and we did a little bit of a wish list on my show about who we might want to see the Canucks taking with this exact pick. And it's funny because the amount of names that we brought up are still here. I think for me, it's the name at the top. It's JP Hurlburt. I'm shocked. I don't think he's going to be available here when it actually comes time for draft day for the Canucks. Obviously, it depends how the Minnesota Wild play out the rest of their season to see where this pick comes up. I'm shocked Hurlburt's still on the board. So for me, it's him. But man, in terms of who the Canucks might actually draft, it's the next name on the board right there. that I'm really high on. Alexander Command, I'm so high on this guy. I absolutely love his game. There's some other names here, Maddox Dejanay, Liam Ruck, that I also would love the Canucks to take. But I think, realistically, if Hurlburt was still on the board by the time this Wild pick came around, Alvin and Rutherford wouldn't think twice. They're absolutely pulling the trigger. And so for my vote, that's what I suggest we do. But obviously, let's hear it, Doodle.
You know, it's interesting because I'm looking at this and I also see Preston, which I really like as well. Just an absolute speedster. The guy flies, but if he gets held up in the neutral zone, he does seem to struggle a little bit, kind of getting more control. And he's definitely a high-risk, high-reward type player. Alexander Command, kind of like a very high work ethic, does pretty much everything well. He's kind of a dog-on-a-bone guy. He's definitely a jack-of-all-trades type of player. Really like him. Liam Ruck there of the Ruck twins, he's still available with our pick. So if the Vancouver Canucks want to be creative, this is an opportunity that the Vancouver Canucks could potentially get Liam and Marcus if this situation does kind of happen. So, you know, we have a bit of a twister here. And
I know, I'd love the Ruck twins too. It's
because
it's so tough to take them here.
You know, with me, you know, I think we're going to agree it's going to be Hurlburt here just because the value alone, I think, is pretty significant. But there is something to say about the value of going with a guy like Liam and getting his brother and having that instant chemistry on a team that, you know, let's be honest, could use some chemistry into the future as well. So we're going to go with the, I would say, safer choice here with JP Hurlburt. But let's take a look and see what's going to happen here with the rest moving forward. So next one on 26, we have Adam there, and there goes Maddox to Seattle in the 27th point. And then Liam Ruck goes to the Dallas. Wait, is that Dallas?
That's Rangers from Dallas,
Oh my goodness.
Ignatavicius in the first round. Wow.
Yeah, so
that's a reach.
But you know what? When we have these drafts, there's always some guy near the bottom that is like in the late second or early thirds that are like, what? How is he getting picked so early? Very, very thick. By the way, this pick right here, I think we're going to go kind of consensus here. Pretty obvious guy. Work ethic. And you know what? Because these are the top two guys I really liked. And I talked about them, right? Because I think Preston or Mathis has just a ton of potential too. But when you have a chance to get another center, kind of like the Coots mold, and he's just a really good, not generic, but he's just a good hockey player. I
love the Coots comparison. I think you make a great point. He doesn't necessarily have that insane offensive upside. Like, you're not going to expect an 80-point season out of this guy, but you can expect some really reliable middle six, potentially even top six center work. And on top of that, of the players available here, his ability to step right into the big leagues, I think, is going to translate a lot better than other guys here. It wouldn't shock me to see Command playing NHL minutes within kind of 2 seasons, although you do have that adjustment to NHL ice to account for as well.
You know, another interesting name here is Jack Hextall, right? Because of the connections there. So I'm curious to see where he goes. But I'm actually, where did Xavier go? Did he go yet? Did he go? Yeah, he did. Number 21.
And that feels about where he's going to go.
One of my favorite picks, man. The absolute dynamic skater with the puck in his hands. Oh, he's a lot of fun. So, well, let's go with Alexander Command here. I think we're consensus on that.
100%. The only thing I'll quickly say is because I just don't see Alexander Command being available with this pick realistically. And when it comes time to NHL draft, you do never know. But
it's because he's a center more than that. He's a big center too, right? I think if he wasn't a center, maybe there'd be a little higher thing. But let's be honest though, there isn't one trait. Like, if there's a lot of people, and I've talked to scouts, believe it or not, I have talked to scouts before, and I've talked to different people, and they say that one of the things people look for in drafts is an elite trait. What is an elite trait that makes him stand over everybody around him in that 20 range, 15 to 20, not top 50. I mean, like say if he's 25, in that 40 to 20 to 20 type range. And what makes him stand out? Where Alexander Command would probably be his work ethic, which is something interesting, but it's not an actual specific trait. So maybe that's why potentially he does fall. But with the center and the side, I just don't see it. Yeah.
Now this is where it's going to get interesting here.
So is there any guys here that really kind of stand out? I know we're still doing, kind of a deeper dive into the second and third round and some of the players that I like. There's actually one way down there that I like, Ryan Rubrick, but
and just below him is the other half of the Ruck twins as well.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that Marcus is going to fall this far either. Maybe. He is, of course, the lower rated of the two coming into it. There's a couple good options here, though. So one name that catches me as, well, there's two goaltenders that are slated to go almost back-to-back there, 15 and 17, Noling and Borochev. And I have to say that for me personally, if the Canucks were to select a goaltender with this pick, which I don't want them to do, but if they were, Borochev strikes me as one that could seriously have a lot of value. His numbers in the MHL, when you look at the kind of goaltenders that have come out of the MHL in previous years and had lengthy NHL careers, his numbers rival or beat almost all of them. So Borochev could really be one of those goaltenders that ends up being a steal. However, of course, with the likes of Alexei Medvedev already in the system, I don't think I personally want to see the Vancouver Canucks selecting a goaltender in the second round. I think I'd like to see them getting a little bit more kind of value and stuff like that. A name that intrigues me there is Alessandro Di Iorio. Of course, he's up for MVP in the OHL, one of the 20 nominees from the Sarnia Sting. However, I'm not so sold on him. The Sarnia Sting didn't have a super great year, and of course, the other center, name's blanking my mind right now, but they have their number one and number two center slated to go both in the second round, and I think it's quite hard to split them as well. I think for me, I don't hate the either of the picks right at the bottom there of Ryan Rubeck or Marcus Ruck. You know what they are. And while there are some other great names around here, I think that someone like Marcus Ruck, it's not often you get 100-point league-leading WHL value with your second round draft pick. So I think if we're talking about pure value, it does make sense to go Ruck here, even though it does kind of feel like a coward's way out, if you will, in that it's the obvious pick.
And here's another fun little thing that you could do. You can actually see some trade offers that are available for this pick. For example, the Vegas Golden Knights just want to do a quick swap here. And most of these seem to be swaps. I probably should have clicked this a little bit earlier to see some of the more fun
ones. Well, they're all swaps
but
that are just worse as well. I just saw that. It's just Vegas being like, hey, do you want to swap picks?
Like I said, there is a few bugs here, but it's honestly such a fun tool to use. And it's been fairly accurate from what I've seen. But you know what, man? I know this is kind of crazy because I have to do a lot more research on a lot of these guys, to be completely honest. Like I know Thomas, right? I know he's pretty good. He's a center, two-way center, a lot of decent, like, pretty solid skater, I would say. Good play driving ability. You know, he's not the biggest player in the world, but you know, he has some decent vision. He has some decent passing. Yeah. I think he's like 6 foot, 180 pounds, something like that. But he's a left-handed shooter. So that's an interesting guy, but just because I just don't feel he's going to fall this far into the draft. I think Marcus Ruck's going to be around that 40 to 50 pick range, even potentially even 30 range, which is going to be something interesting to see, especially where Liam goes. Liam's going to dictate everything. So for this pick, you know what? It's kind of tough between two. You want to go with Ruck here on this one? And
I do. Before you shoot it, can you just do me a favor? I've remember the name I was thinking of. Can you scroll down to see where Beckham Edwards is? I only ask because Alessandro Di Iorio there, the center from the Sarnia Sting, he's the other half of that. But I was recently just debating which of the two Sting forwards should go higher. There's Beckham Edwards way down there. I think Edwards might end up being the better NHL player, and he's who I was thinking the Canucks might select with this pick. But in terms of the names available, I think there's no question you got to go.
Also, you know what? Also, not to mention, like if someone else drafts Liam, and we have Marcus, you could make a trade there. There's a great trade trip on top of it. So you're getting a 100-point player now. Would be one in the NHL, most likely not, especially without his brother. And he is not. He's more of the creative playmaker one of the two. But I think it's a pretty decent pick. So right there you have it. The Vancouver Canucks. So now it's going to just finish off the second round drafting here. But I think if this is how it ended, I think a lot of Vancouver Canucks fans would be extremely happy with how the draft went. We got size. We got a competitiveness, which is something that we love. But what do you think about the draft so far for Vancouver while this kind of finishes itself off?
If this is how the Canucks draft ended up going, I would probably emerge the next day with several broken bones from attempting to cartwheel in the street. I would be over the moon if this is how the Canucks draft rolled out. I mean, obviously, getting a top 2 pick is the biggest. It's the number one thing. I think there's such a clear tier break between McKenna, Stenberg, and then everybody else. So that's obviously a huge thing in the draft. I will say, I think one thing that we've done outside of maybe the command pick, we have gone, I would say, more upside than floor, which is fine. I think that makes a lot of sense in the earlier couple of rounds. Canucks fans should be kind of used to that, as of course star prospect defenseman Zeev Buium. He was one of the biggest falls I had seen in quite a while, and I was shocked when he fell all the way to the Minnesota Wild pick. Or sorry, not the Wild pick, but at 12. I was shocked. I was stunned. I truly was.
Some people even had him in the top 5, even some, I think top 4. Some people had
I was expecting him to go anywhere from 4 to 7, and so for him to fall to 12 blew me away. And it's not out of the realm of possibility. Hurlburt does the same.
So there you go, guys. Zach, please share your socials before we knock this one out.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. As always, I'm Zach Clarke. You can find me doing some work for Sportsnet 650. I host the show Prospect Central. So if you want to learn more, you can go to sportsnet.ca and search for Prospect Central under the Sportsnet 650 tab. And, of course, the latest episode featured you. So thanks so much again for joining and doing that. It's always so much fun chatting prospects, especially this time of year.
Thanks for inviting me on Sportsnet 650. Honestly, a bit of a dream of mine to be able to go and do a show with you and the Prospect Central and on Sportsnet. And it's pretty crazy. At 40 years old to be able to do that, that's just awesome. And I had a great time, and I thought it turned out really, really well. So thank you so much, Zach. I appreciate that.